Good morning. Looks like
Morning.
we're ready to, looks like we're ready to go. Good morning, Ward.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call to order the Bishop Area Wastewater Authority Board of Directors meeting on this January 17th, 2023. The time is about 7:03.
8:03.
Excuse me, 8:03. I've been running off schedule most of the morning. First item on our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. If we would stand, please. Ron, would you please lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'd be happy. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, would you please take the roll?
Board Member Schwartz?
Here.
Board Member Stone?
Present.
Vice Chairman Mahovey?
Here.
Chairman Pachuki?
Yes, here. Next item is public comment. Michelle, do we have any comment that's been submitted in writing?
I do not.
We have none, and there are no members of the public present or on Zoom. Is that correct, Michelle?
We have Todd Thornburg present, but he does not have his hand raised or anything.
Okay. There are no comments, then we can move on to the consent calendar. There are three items for approval and filing. Item number 1, Board of Directors of Bishop Area Wastewater Authority meeting minutes of July 19th, item 2022, that is, excuse me, and item number 2, appoint Nora Gamino of City of Bishop Director of Public Works as administrator for the purposes of managing and administering the authority. And 3, appoint Destin Deshawn, City of Bishop City Administrator, as Treasurer Controller of Authority. Do we have a motion?
I would so move, Mr. President.
We have,
I'll second that.
public, Steve is reminding me that this is a time for a comment on any of those agenda items. Is that
If
correct?
you could ask if there are any comments.
Are there any comments? Yes. Thank you for keeping me straight on that. We have a motion and a second. Michelle, would you please poll the board?
Board Member Schwartz?
Yes.
Board Member Stone?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Mahovey?
Yes.
Chairman Pachuki?
Yes,
Motion approved for the consent calendar of the 3 items noted.
thank you. And item number 6 on the agenda, mid-year budget review. And Nora, excuse me, would you like to take the lead on this?
Yeah, I'm actually going to turn it over to Michelle.
Okay.
Okay, so in our little packet, I have the mid-year budget review. I did add the actual that Stephen had asked that we put that on there.
Okay.
Show what, how we're going through the year. A couple things. Under professional services, I've noted before that there are well samples, the quarterly monitor well samples and the monthly nitrogen. We've put that in the budget, but the city has not yet charged BAWA for certain sampling. And I know that Justin has mentioned that in time, it will be, charged to both. I haven't been given the go-ahead on that yet. I don't know if there's certain sampling that needs to happen. That would have to be something Dustin to answer us. And unfortunately, Dustin's not here today because he had jury duty. But I do just keep that in the budget, even if we don't spend it. Another thing that I added to the budget that wasn't there when we approved it in July was the annual register advertisements. And also the Eastern California Water Association grant writing services. So I've added those items in under professional.
Michelle, I have a question about that.
Yes.
Is there any reason to have that as a separate item from the 1-3 down, which is just grant writing? That's more general. Should that just fall under the grant writing portion of the budget?
It most certainly can. So I can put that, I can just put that in there under
Okay.
that and just remove that line item and then put 1,000 towards that. So yes. that
Okay.
Sounds fine.
All right.
I will make a note to do that. And then under capital, we have removed the irrigation design, irrigation project. Or not, yes, and then the CEQA. And then we added DWP land acquisition and moved it into our next year. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for me on these items?
I guess the only other question I had was with regards to the 2 line items for the consultant fees. The Title 22 is different than the feasibility study, right?
I believe so, and that's why I have it separated. And that way it's just kind of, more detailed on there.
Not a question, but a comment. I appreciate this type of summary. Excuse me. It provides me with the kind of summary I need. So thank you.
Thank you. And then the next page, it just shows I also keep track of all the expenditures as I do them. And then they all match within the budget. And Nora was going to give a little update on the DWP land acquisition.
Before we get into that real
Yes.
quick, so I'm just looking at the new items that are on there that weren't in our budget, right?
Okay.
Because you know me, I like to make the budget and then see that we stick to it. So with the consultant fees for Title 22, in fees, in principle, that could fall under the other consultant fees line.
On which,
Just a miscellaneous consultant fees, that's 2 lines down, that we had budgeted 5,000 for, or do we actually have a different plan for that 5,000?
I'm not sure. I'd
Okay.
have to research that.
Sure.
on
Why don't
it.
we check?
Yeah.
Because
And maybe that other one, maybe the 5,000 just needs to go to Lumos. I might have just got so detailed on
Sure.
it and then kept the other ones there.
that's fine. Because yeah, then the only thing that I would be highlighting is that the only new items of expenditure that we're adding into the adjustment would be the web hosting and the INYO register, and everything else we had already budgeted for.
Yes, the INYO register, then that grant, even though like you had said, it can go down the grant writing and then the CBT hosting.
Yeah.
I've been paying it, but somehow it just wasn't listed on the budget.
Cool.
So I'll look at those consultant fees
Thanks.
and see if one of the items can go away and if that 5,000 can move to, does it really belong to Lumos?
Sure. Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Pardon. Is this an action item?
So is that it, Michelle? Nora, are you ready to?
Do we need to approve the mid-year budget, or is it just a information?
It should be approved, I believe. Yes.
Well, then we'll open to have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the mid-year budget.
We have a motion and a second.
Board Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Board Member Stone,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Mahovey,
Yes.
Chairman Pachuki,
Yes.
motion approved for the mid-year budget review.
We'll point out that there is no one
With-
from the public for public comment on
Oh,
that.
yes.
Thank you, Steve.
I got you back.
Somebody has to. All yours, Nora. Unless you want to wait till that.
Till
Yeah,
the
I was waiting for the siren to
Okay.
complete. Okay, so for staff report, I was going to give an update on the land acquisition from LADWP. And I understand Todd is on Zoom joining us, so I may invite him to correct anything that I misstate. So as we have been working with them, a couple of evolutions have come to pass. In particular, the whole area that we were looking at procuring, there was 4 separate parcels. One of them, the southeast parcel for 73 acres, we are leaning towards removing that from the sale. So we would only be acquiring 202 acres instead of 275 acres. The reason for this is that through the studies that were done previously, the max that they calculated, our max need of land was about 275 acres. But that also included analysis based on higher gallons per day than what we're actually seeing. So they kind of maxed out their analysis, which I can understand why from an engineering standpoint, it's kind of safeguards. That along with some of the newer technologies that we're looking at in doing in a new plant, we don't think we're going to need all of that land, 275 acres. So what happens is, let's say we only need that 200 acres or even less when we first get started. That leaves us with a 73 acre parcel that we have to manage as land managers. So if anything is going on that, we have to take care of it. So in order to keep the focus of BAWA on wastewater, waste discharge, things like that, we're removing the southeast parcel. In talking with DWP, it appears that that's completely okay. It's its own little parcel in the land sale, so it's really easy to remove out of there. Along with that, we received the appraisal, and we also have been talking to DWP about the deed restrictions that'll be on the land. We did have some questions that we have reviewed in depth with DWP about the appraisal. Things like the best and most economic use of the land, which they determined to be agriculture. Things like the assumption that was made that there's no environmental concerns with the land, that the proximity to the waste treatment plant is not going to affect the appraisal. And so in talking through some of those questions we had with DWP, what we discovered was that because we caused the environmental concerns, we are the reason for that it was an assumption made that that wouldn't impact the appraisal value. Because we're buying it for the purposes of what we've been using it for, we kind of caused that problem. The other thing about agriculture use, it does not come with water rights. The land will not come with water rights. And talking to DWP about that, something like only 12% of DWP land that's grazed actually has water rights to it. So this is kind of par for the course in how they do transfers and grazing. So the other piece is the deed restriction. And they are still working on drafting up what that restriction will look like. But basically it's giving a discounted price of about 50%. And so the deed restriction will be for the purposes of wastewater operations, wastewater plant operations. So anything that's peripheral to wastewater treatment plant operations. So if we wanted to put like a solar system out there to operate our plant, we could do that. If we wanted to relocate our plant and put it on this land, we could do that. It will also be restricted for purposes of wastewater discharge, which is what we're using it for right now. So that's right in line with what we're doing. And then the third thing is grazing. Grazing would be allowed on that land. So those are the 3 primary things right now in the deed restriction that would be allowable uses on the land. We have asked to consider something like growing crops, like alfalfa, like if in the future we ever wanted to do something like grow alfalfa for nutrient uptake, we could do that. So they're working on revising those deed restrictions for that. As far as timelines go, the legal description is still being developed. So we're looking at next fiscal year to finalize this thing, which is why the line item got moved into next fiscal year's budget. So, questions?
Is the appraisal available for our review, or is it?
I do believe there was a statement on there about it being proprietary, and seeing as we have Todd here. I don't know if he could maybe answer that question on whether we can share that appraisal or not. If Todd's able to weigh in.
What is it? 202 acres?
It's 202 acres, yes. It's about
Our line item is
3,388
684.6,
3,388 per acre.
3,388 per acre.
And that's that 50% with a 50% discount on it.
Okay.
Mhm.
For comparison, the Silver Peaks project, which is in town, they appraised that land at about 338,000 per acre.
But it didn't have the deed restrictions.
Oh, it does.
It does?
Well, not the same ones. Yeah, it's
Right.
not for agricultural purpose, but it does have a lot of deed restrictions.
And those deed restrictions are into perpetuity. So they will be in place forever, unless we want to take them to court to remove them. So
If we, let's say there's some crazy technology in the future where you don't need a massive wastewater plant, we could sell the land with the deed restrictions.
mhm,
But at this point in time, we're in as far as buyers, so.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reasonable to me.
Yeah.
The background in that area.
And quick question, when you talked about the max, the upper limit on the amount of land that included the 73 acres, the extra 73 acres, that was that assuming both plants at full capacity, and we really don't think we'll ever get to that point.
Yeah, exactly. That was assuming both plants at max permit capacity.
Oh,
So not even like what we're operating, average of what we're operating at right now, the actual permit capacity, which was like, I want to say like 2.45 million gallons a day.
uh-huh.
And I think what we're actually operating out is less than 2. I think it's
Okay.
more like 1.5. I'd have to pull those numbers. And so there was ranges of amount of land you would need for different different flows. And what we're actually operating at, the 202 acres is still plenty adequate to meet our actual operation and some.
Okay. And so then this does kind of lock us into whatever the new plant is going to be more efficient in extracting nitrogen from the water at the source. Particularly. Okay.
Yeah, if I could add another consideration that drove my thinking on eliminating that southeast parcel was the cost of developing infrastructure to dispose of effluent down there. I mean, it's a long stretch. So what we've found out, even in the closer parcels that we're seriously looking at improving for effluent discharge, the cost of the nearby and then trying to project that to the further out, it would just be it would be a cost that would probably drive another option for disposal of effluent rather than use of that parcel way to the southeast. The soils there also, with regard to agronomic uptake, probably aren't as conducive to high effective agronomic uptake as the soils closer into the plant. So as Nora pointed out, there are a number of factors that kind of led us to say, all right, this and managing the land. As we know, DWP lands or remote lands could be sources of dumping of refrigerators and all kinds of things that you don't want. So if BAWA can stay away from that remote land management, that would sure be nice. So it all factored in, and we cut the cost by almost a third. Is that correct, Nora?
Yeah.
There you go. That's a
Like
chunk
it.
of money.
I like it.
Yeah. I think that's fine. And I think if we did, when we eventually build a plant that's more efficient at capturing nutrients, obviously the trade-off there is that it'll be more energy intensive. And I think with, we could definitely be able to put enough solar infrastructure to be able to run it on the 200 acres that are there. And that would be a permitted use in the deed restriction.
One thing I did fail to mention, this does include a road easement
Okay.
all the way down, so.
And when you also talk about now you're adding to the deed a agriculture component, and in principle, when the plant's built, all the gray water, which would now be safe, can be used for any sort of agriculture, right? Would say having a big community garden there for nutrient uptake fall under that agriculture part?
Commercial enterprise? Is that what?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it would be a non-commercial enterprise because we can't, make land through agriculture off of the property. Or it can't be a primary use, I should say.
Right.
A community garden? I don't know. That would have to take that to DEP and see what their interpretation of that would be. It depends on how things are written in that
Right.
deed restriction. Right now it's written wastewater treatment plant operation, wastewater discharge, and grazing. So if we add in a line that says something like, crops
Mhm.
or something like that, maybe that's a legal question of does a community garden fall in line with crops?
Right.
So I think it depends on how it's written in there.
I guess the first flag I would see there, red flag, would be Lahontan stepping in and saying, unless it's treated to tertiary standards,
Mhm.
which we might not be going there, then you can't have public access
Yeah, good
to the
point.
lands where the treated effluent is discharged.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
very true.
That was what I was gonna say, Walt.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe at some point, 50 years from now, tertiary treatment might be what has to be done. However, with the horizon that we can project, we're not headed to tertiary.
Okay. All right.
And I think that,
In 50 years, we go to court and ask for.
well, and I think that's the thing to keep in mind is that we know what we know right now.
Uh-huh.
That's not to say, in 50 years, the technology won't be completely different. And we do have some kind of amazing tertiary treatment where we're basically producing good water
Good water.
that could be pumped right into surface water.
Right.
Or used for a community garden. And so how do we phrase and word that deed restriction to kind of hedge our bets for
Uh-huh.
future technology?
Just something to throw out there.
Good question.
Consideration.
I'm not sure that community gardeners will want to garden that
Right.
close to.
The kids running out there and.
Yeah, I don't know.
Might get some
never
productive
know.
crops.
I know there are lots of grants out there for orchards for food sovereignty programs.
Interesting.
And I know the master gardeners were interested in maintaining those sorts of things in the past. So just throwing it out there. Cool. Thanks.
Good questions, good comments. Nora, thank you for the overview.
Good
briefing.
report.
Good work on working with Todd and DWP. I think the process has moved forward nicely with regard to what BAWA's needs are, and DWP came to the table to work with us on that. So it's much appreciated. Further comments, questions?
Not at this time.
I will check with Todd about how far we can release the appraisal.
Do you have any idea on the timing of when the deed restrictions could be provided to us for a detailed review?
I don't have a good timeline on that. I know Todd is working on it, maybe within the next month or two.
That would be nice to see.
Mhm.
Grind on that a little. Yeah.
If no further discussion on item number 6, we can move to 7, staff and board reports.
Only a reminder about Form 700. If, so far, Ron and Walt have completed it. And if we can get everyone else to complete it, that would be wonderful.
Some slackers.
I don't know how many times do I have to complete that form? It's for like every single LTC, city, like SCOG. Like, can't they just use the same form?
That's-
And that's my to-do list. right
Yeah.
now.
Yes, please, thank you.
Sure. Is there a particular location that it needs to be in? Michelle?
You should have received an email a couple weeks ago from the county with the link.
When's it due?
Not due till April, but it's nice if everyone can get it done. I'm always, every month going on,
Yes.
going
I'm
on.
gonna agree.
January 31st, that'll give me plenty of time.
January 31st, that's,
Oh, I see the email. Yeah, I ignored it because I had gotten one the week before, which I filled out.
thank you,
Alright.
Stephen.
So they didn't group them all in one.
No, and like some
No.
of them, like with SCOG, you have to there is no formal filing place. I always do like a wet signature. It's
Yeah.
brutal. It's horrible.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I actually my brain shuts off when I see force. So I'm like, no, no, no.
See, with the district in Bawa, the one form did both. So.
I see.
It would be nice. That would be
yeah,
that
but
would
I
be
could see
that would be efficient, right?
I know.
that's- Yeah.
Okay. Got it, Michelle.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Nora, did you have anything?
Just in addition to digging into the land sale, still compiling information for the feasibility study to get that information off to Lumos so they can continue on with their work. I believe the district has given all their information and they're waiting on city information. So that's all I have.
Steve, did you have anything? Jen? If there's no further business to be brought before the board, we can adjourn at approximately 8:30.
Okay. It's great, isn't it?
Now Michelle's gonna say, you can fill out your form right now.
Ward, thank you for attending, and Todd, likewise.
Nice
Good
to
to
see
see
you,
you all.
Todd.
My to-do list.
Let's see if we can find it on.
If I need one of those 700 forms.